Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, I tēnei rātapu tuawhā o te Whakaaturanga, te wā o te whakamāramatanga, o te korōreo o te atua. This is the season of Epiphany, te Whakaaturanga, the revelation of the glory of God in the person of Jesus Christ. Today's gospel reading is taken from Matthew chapter 5. I'm going to read it in te reo Māori, and I'll encourage you, if you've got a Bible at home, open it up to Matthew chapter 5, and you'll be able to follow along there, and you can follow along in Māori or Pākehā, either way is fine. I tōna kitinga I te whakamininga, ka haere ia ki runga ki te maunga, nō ka noho ia, ka haere ana ākonga ki a ia. Nā, ka puaki tōna māngai, ka whakaako ia rātou. Come here. Ka koa te hunga he rawa kore nei te wairua, nō rātou hoki te rangatiratanga o te rangi. Ka koa te hunga tangi ana, ka whakamāriatia hoki rātou. Ka koa te hunga ngā kaumahaki, ka riro hoki I rātou te whenua. Ka koa te hunga hia kai ana, hia inu ana ki te tika, mākona hoki rātou. Ka koa te hunga tohu tangata, tohu ngia hoki rātou. Ka koa te hunga ngā kaumā, kite hoki rātou I te atua. Ka koa te hunga hohaurongo, ka huaina hoki rātou he tamariki nā te atua. Ka koa te hunga whakatoi ana mō te tika, nō rātou hoki te rangatiratanga o te rangi. Ka koa koutou, ina tāwai rātou I a koutou, ina whakatoi, ina puaki I rātou ngā kupu kino katoa mō koutou, he mea tika, he whakaro hoki ki a hau, ki a hari, ki a whakamanamana, he rahi hoki te utu mō koutou I te rangi, he pēnei hoki tā rātou whakatoi I ngā poropiti I mua I a koutou. I want to begin by acknowledging the passing of our mārekura, of our whaia Tete Whai Harawira, whose funeral is taking place as I speak up at St. Isaac's, and the nehu will happen at Whakapara this afternoon. And as we remember her passing and the loss to her whānau, I also want to acknowledge the huge devastation that's been caused by the flooding and perhaps has affected some of you. Do get in touch with us if you need help. And for all of us, let's be in prayer for those who have suffered loss of life and of property, and in some cases of livelihood as well. And it's in the uncertainty of life that we experience, and in this weekend's disaster has actually cut across some of the social divides. Even the rich and powerful have suffered over the last few days. It's brought home to us the sense of uncertainty in life, and perhaps driven home to us our longing to be happy, to be koa, to be hari. And I wonder if you've noticed the oddity of what Jesus says here, because he tells us that the secret to being happy is quite counterintuitive. And first of all, if you're looking at a Pākehā translation, you'll see that instead of ka hari, or ka koa or kia hari, it's got blessed are these people. Now, my objection to that, and the reason I like some other English translations that have happy, is that blessed has become almost spiritualized, whereas what Jesus is talking about here is something that is deeply human, that is embodied. This is a happiness that is about the pleasure that we can have as human beings in life as it is meant to be. And Jesus opens his sermon here by telling us that all that he's going to say in what he preaches, and all that he's going to do in his mission, which takes him to the cross, this is all going to lead to human happiness for those who trust in Jesus Christ, who trust in his teaching here in the sermon, and who place their trust in his sacrifice on the cross that's to come as the culmination of his mission. And I wonder if you've noticed, though, that there was a little hint that this isn't just about happiness here and now. Now, I have to say, if you're expecting that I'm going to promise you a wonderful life in every respect right now, I cannot do that, because I would not be faithful to what Jesus is saying here. Think of those who mourn today, that whānau pane, all those who have been affected by loss. Blessed are those who mourn, Jesus says, or preferably happy are those who mourn. Can you feel the shock of that statement? Happy are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. But they will be comforted, not they are comforted now. We all know that from our experience of grief and loss, that it's almost cruel to say to somebody, be comforted now in the midst of the experience of loss. Instead, we can say, there is hope that you will be comforted. Jesus is setting out a future that gives us the ability to live in the dissatisfaction, the discomfort, the suffering even, of this present reality. And he talks about here the kind of person that we can be. Not just the experience of life, but do you see that he talks about those who are merciful, who are pure in heart, and those who make peace? This is those who bring about a transformation of the world. So the first section, I guess, is of those who are in some sense suffering, and the second section speaks to those who are bringing about the transformation that Jesus says we're actually only going to fully experience in the future. And he says the reason that we can be happy, that we can have that koa, that hari, is because we know how our story, not just the story of the world, but our personal story will end, that we will experience a great reward. Jesus is setting out here the end of the story so that we can live in Jesus' ways in the present, in the midst of all that it brings. And he says in particular that those who give themselves up, who suffer for following in Jesus' path, are those who have a great reward. This points us forward, by the way, to the way that Jesus' own mission ends. He does suffer for the sake of righteousness. He, in a way, retells the story of all those prophets of old that Jesus refers to, who had their eyes fixed on reward. And you know what Jesus' reward is here? It's actually us. It's to win us back to God. Jesus has walked this pathway of suffering, but he's also obtained the reward that he was seeking through it. And that reward is that he has brought you and me, as long as we trust in him, he's brought us back to God. Jesus suffered in order to win a reward, to win us back to God. And we too are called to follow in his footsteps. And he places in front of us that hope of reward too, the experience of happiness, that perhaps most of all is seen in the way we participate in Jesus' own mission of restoring human beings to a life lived with God now and in eternity when Jesus returns. So my encouragement to you today is, if in any way, I can see the rain coming down outside while I'm speaking, if you have suffered loss, or perhaps if you've just been woken up in a new way again to the uncertainty of this life and to the pain that we all encounter, I do want you to be able to truly say, I am happy because I know the end of this story. It's a story where I will participate in Jesus' mission of winning humanity back to God, and where I will place my own trust in his work on the cross and in his teaching on how we'll live, because I know that in that he has my best interests at heart. Isn't that pretty amazing? He's not stingy. He's promising you that you can be truly happy if you'll just place your trust that the path that he's laid out is the one that will bring you happiness forever. A happiness that's not some spiritualization of things, but is a real embodied one. That's my encouragement to you this Sunday about the encounter that you can have with God and that you can give as a gift to others. I runga i te ingo o te matua, te tama me te wairua tapu. Āmene. I'll finish with the collect for the day, our prayer for the day. I roto i te reo Māori, and then I'll pray in Pākehā as well. E ihu, a kona mātou, ki te whai oranga, ki te koropiko hoki kaore he whakaro ki ngā hua o te kiko, he apo rānei. Pānaia atu ngā mea takakino i o mātou oranga, a mei ngā mātou hei temepara mō te wairua, mō te kororia o tō ingoa tapu. Āmene. Teach us, Jesus, how to live and worship without being worldly or greedy. Drive from our lives what spoils them and makes us temples of the Spirit for the glory of your holy name. Amen. Amen. Ngāti atua koutou, e manaaki e te aki i ngā wā katoa. I rungi i te ingo o te matua, te tama, me te wairua tapu. Ake tono atu.